Hi everyone, it's Andrea from Movers and Bakers. Today I'm going to share with you how I make my buttermilk fruit scones. These are a gorgeous English tea time treat, perfect with some clotted cream and jam. Let's get baking. So normally I would make this in a bowl using my fingers, but today I'm going to use my lovely stand mixer, my KitchenAid, just to show you how easy it can be and a different way of doing it as well. So in my lovely large bowl, I'm going to sift in some dry ingredients. So in here, I'm going to pop 250 grams of plain flour. And to that, I am going to add half a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda, and 1 generous tablespoon of caster sugar. I'm going to sift all that in, and once that is done, I'm going to add in 55 grams of cold butter that I have cubed. Now it's really important that your butter is really nice and cold, and that's another reason why I'm choosing today not to use my hands, because I don't want to warm that butter up. So we'll pop all that in, and then it's time to get mixing. So I'm going to use my paddle attachment today because I don't want to put lots of air into it. I just want to rub the butter into my dry ingredients effectively. And mix it on low to start with so you don't get your dry ingredients flying everywhere. And while my butter is mixing in there, it's a great time for me to remind you to like this video and to subscribe to my channel so you'll always know when I release new videos. So once your mixture is looking well combined and looks almost a bit like breadcrumby kind of clumps are forming, as you can see in my bowl, that's when you know you're good to go for the next step. So I'm going to pop this back in here, and my next thing to add is some sultanas. Now you can add any dried fruit that you want. I'm just choosing to use sultanas today. You can put raisins in, or cranberries, or a mixture, whatever you fancy. So this is 75 grams of sultanas. I'm just going to give that a quick couple of rounds just to mix it all the way through. And once that's evenly spread out, our next thing to add in is our buttermilk. So I have here 150 milliliters of buttermilk. If you have never made buttermilk before, it is so easy. Check out my video on how to make your own buttermilk at home, or of course you can buy it in the shop if you prefer. But it's really easy to make, so absolutely do that if you can. So this is going to go in, and I'm going to mix this only until it's coming together. You do not want to mix once you add your wet ingredients in. You do not want to overmix this. You're going to get a really tough scones that are going to be really chewy rather than fluffy and beautiful like we want them to be. So I'm going to pop this in, and then I'm going to mix it all together. And that is what you want. So it's not quite mixed together, you can see, but my dough is still quite wet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flour my work surface. Normal plain flour. I'm just going to sprinkle it over my work surface just to help my dough not stick. So I'm going to tip all my mixture out, just scraping it all out with my fingers. So you just want to knead it until it comes together. As you can see, if you find it is a little bit sticky, just add a little bit more flour. And if you find you need a little bit more liquid, just put a little bit more milk in until you get the consistency that you want. But you're looking for it to be a really nice soft dough, as you can see. And then I'm going to press it down. You can roll it, but I find doing it by hand is just as good. So you want to press your dough out until it's about 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick, about like that. Now I have here a fluted cutter. You can use a plain one, you can use a glass, whatever you want. I'm using a fairly small size. This is about 6 centimeters across, but you can use whatever you want, but you'll have to obviously adjust your baking time accordingly. So before I start stamping, it's really important that you flour this. So just in my bowl of flour, I'm just going to dunk that in, and that's just going to give it a little bit of help to not stick to my scone mix. Now, the other really important thing when you cut scones is you mustn't push it down and twist, because when you twist with your scones, you seal the sides so it doesn't get the rise. So it's really important that you go straight down and straight back up again, and don't twist it and seal the sides shut. That's how you get the rise in your scones. So grab your cutter, and we're just going to push straight down. And once it's gone down, pull it back up, dip it again, and keep going with your mixture. Really important that you dip in flour after every time you've done a cut. Once you've got as many as you can out of that batch, I just lift the parts of the dough from around my scones and then pick them up. Now I've got here ready, if there's any fruit that's sticking out, you can either push it back in to make it nice and smooth, or you can push it back in or pull it out. Right, so I also have here a baking tray ready. I've just got some normal parchment paper lying on it, and I'm just going to lay them. Now, when you put the scones on your baking tray, you can either space them out, and that's going to make them cook all the way around really well, but if you want them to stay a bit softer, which is what my family likes, you put them a bit closer together. So I'm not putting them quite touching, but I am putting them fairly close to each other. And what that's going to mean is the moisture as they cook is not going to completely evaporate, so they're going to still stay a bit softer rather than going crisper. So I'm going to pop all these on my tray. This will make me 9 scones in total. So once you have cut your scones and you've got all the cuts you can, with your remaining scone mixture, just squish it all back together and press it down and repeat. Now, your last couple of scones may well not be as good as your first few, just because you've handled that dough quite a lot to get to where you are. So don't be surprised if when you come to making them, you find that they've not risen as much, or they've rise a bit wonky or anything like that. So that one isn't looking too bad, but because you can see all the folds and everything, you'll see once it's baked that some of them, and you will have this with yours, some of them won't be as nice as some of your other ones because they've been handled, the dough has been handled a bit more for you to squeeze it all back together. So that's fine, don't panic, they will still taste good, but they will just not look as pretty. Once you have got your scones ready on your tray, we're going to use some milk to brush the tops of them. And what the milk's going to do is it's going to help it get a lovely golden colour on the top, rather than staying more anemic and not quite as golden. But make sure, this is really important as well, make sure when you brush the tops that you only brush the tops. Don't let any milk go down the side, because again, that is going to affect the rise of your scones. So you don't want to overload your brush with milk. And you just want to make sure that you're covering the top and not having any of it drip down the sides. So once I'm done with milking my scones, I'm going to pop them in my oven. My oven has been preheating at 190 Celsius, and these will bake for about 15 to 20 minutes before I take them out and I'll share them with you. Okay, so my scones have baked and I've put them on a cooling rack to cool down completely, and they are ready to be enjoyed. Now, I really wanted to show you guys the difference between the first scones that I cut and the last one after I'd handled the dough, the mixture a bit more. I just wanted to show you the effect that it has. So this is one of my first scones. You can see it's got a lovely rise. You'll get this lovely little crack around the middle of the scone. It's nice and flat on top, absolutely beautiful. With one of my last ones, because I've handled it and I've folded the dough and everything, you can see it's a bit flatter. The top is a bit more knobbly and gnarled and all that kind of thing. It will still taste absolutely beautiful, so don't worry about the taste of it. It just doesn't look as nice as one of the first ones. So that's why it's really important that you don't handle your dough as much as possible and you work with it that way. But of course, all that remains now is for me to show you what the inside is like. So with these scones, you will have a lovely crispy outside, and unlike shop bought ones, I really like homemade because they are fluffier on the inside. They're absolutely beautiful. So let me crack one open for you. You can of course use a knife to do this properly, but I'm impatient. So I'm cracking it open. You can see that it's beautiful on the inside and it'll be lovely and soft and really fluffy, but you'll have this lovely crust on the outside because of the milk and the golden brownness of it. And there you have it. There are my fruit scones. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you have. Don't forget to let me know as well whether you're a cream and then jam or jam and cream person. Which camp do you fall in? I want to know. Thanks for joining me today. Hope you've enjoyed these. Happy baking. See you next time, friends.